In this lecture, we're going to look at easings for your animations. Easing is a grouped property that controls how your animation changes over time. What do I mean? If we look at the app we have here, which is what we're going to build in this lecture, we start by a linear animation here, and you see that everything is linear. The animation starts and finishes at a constant speed. If you look at in quad here, you see that it starts out slow and it ends fast. And we have all kinds of animations in here. They are all different in their own ways, but notice that it is one animation. It starts and finishes in one location. We are just changing the easing type, okay? The way the animation changes over time within this distance from the start to finish. And if we go on its online documentation, you see that there is a bunch of properties that we can set for this. You can set the type of the curve, and depending on the curve that you have, you can set all these other properties. They say to specify an easing curve, you need to specify a type. For some curves, you can also specify amplitude, period, and overshoot. If you go down here, they show you how you can apply these settings. Okay, you have a property animation, and you put an easing type here, and they show you the available types. Okay, an easing type can be linear. You see that the curve here is linear. In quad, starts out slow, ends fast. Okay, you see that as we progress in time, the slope is becoming more steep. Out quad starts out fast and ends slow. And you can look at all these curves and see different properties that they have. Now we are going to go to Qt Creator and play with these things. Okay, here we are in Qt Creator. We're going to create our project. It's a Qt Quick application. We call it Easings Demo. Store it in the usual location. Choose our Qt version. Choose our kit. And finish. We want to change the title here to say Easings Demo. Okay, we want to remind ourselves of what we want to build. We are going to build this moving rectangle as an external component, and then we are going to stuff that into a column layout to have this behavior here. And the column layout is probably going to be wrapped in a flickable component to have this flicking. And that's really all for this application. And we are going to be able to apply easings externally to the component from the main QML file. Let's get to work. We're going to add a new QML file. Right click on QML QRC here, add new, choose Qt, choose Qt Quick. We are going to call it moving rectangle because that's what it is. We want to change the Qt Quick import here. We want to start by putting in a few properties that the user is going to be able to set externally. We are going to set this property when we define our item in the main QML file. Okay, we want to be able to set this background color, the gray here. We want to set the starting color, which is beige in general. We want to set the ending color, easing text you see in the middle here, the duration for the animation, the easing type, and the width of the container. Okay, these are things we want. So put them here. Inside, we want to put a rectangle. Its ID is going to be, we're going to give it this ID. Width is going to be container width. Height is going to be 50. And the color is going to be background color. Okay, you see the properties that we set here, we are starting to use them. We have used this container width and we have used this background color. Inside, we're going to put a text component that is going to contain the easing text. We don't want this ID. The text is going to be easing text, what we passed in here, and we want it centered in the parent. Its parent happens to be this rectangle here. We also want to put another rectangle, which is this small moving rectangle in the middle here. ID is going to be contained because it is a contained rectangle. Its color is going to be start color. Width is going to be 50. Height is going to be 50. We want it to have a border like this and a radius of 10 because we want it to have round edges. We also want to put in a mouse area because this thing is going to be clickable. It is going to fill the parent, and we want to know when it is clicked. Okay, we are going to do something, but before we do anything fancy here, I want to provide our animations, okay, because we want this thing to animate from left to right. It is going to start at 0. It is going to end at the width of the window here minus the width of the rectangle. The first thing I want to do, I want to provide the final destination, which is final x. So right here, I can come and say property. It is an integer. It is going to be called final x. The value is parent width minus the width of this rectangle here. This is all we need now. Down here, we're going to put our animations. We want to have a number animation. Its ID is going to be M number animation ID. The target is going to be this rectangle here, the contained rectangle, so we can copy the ID, put that here. That's going to work. The property that we want to animate is X. The easing type is going to be easing type. What we passed when we create the component here, you see that we passed that right here. It's a var type, and we use it right here. It is going to animate up to final x, which is what we just specified here. And the duration for the animation is going to be this property that we passed in here. It's going to be an im duration. We're going to be able to set this externally. That's what we are designing for here. We have our number animation finished now. We also want to animate the changes in color. So we're going to say color animation. It's going to go from start color and go to end color. The duration is going to be the same as for the number animation and im duration. The target is going to be the same as for the number animation as well. So we put it here. The ID is going to be M color animation ID. The property that we are going to animate is going to be color. And for debugging purposes, we want to put in the width of the component in a debug output to see that our sizes are working correctly. We're going to say console log. This should do. Now we want to come in our mouse area. When we click, we want to animate two things. One is the X position. The rectangle is going to move from left to right. The final destination is going to be the width of the parent rectangle, which is this one, minus the width of this rectangle here. And we should specify the width and height of this item here because we are going to use it in layouts. The width is going to be the width of this rectangle. The height is going to be the height of this rectangle here. Width, small, width, height, small, height. This should do. We want to come back to our mouse area. Okay, when we click, we want to animate X from 0 to this location and animate the color changes from the start color to the end color. And the start and end colors are going to be specified externally when you define this item. We want to start by keeping track of whether the small rectangle is on the left or on the right. And we do that by defining a property here. We call it to right, and it's going to start out false because our rectangles are going to start on the left. Inside here, we are going to say if to right equals false, we're going to move to right. Otherwise, we are going to move to left. But before we do that, we have to set this setting here. So we're going to toggle the value of to right here. If it is false, we want to make it true. So we're going to say to right equals true. And here we want to make it false, because if we fall here, it is true, obviously. Now we want to animate X, animate color. The only thing we need to do to animate number is call M number animation and set a to value of final X. We want to start the animation after we do that. For the colors, we want to set the starting color and the ending color. So we're going to start by the starting color, M color animation ID from is equal to start color, M color animation ID 2 equals end color, and we want to start the animation just like this. Otherwise, we're just going to do the reverse. Let's copy this because we don't want to type all this again. We are going to animate back to 0, and we are going to switch end color. We are going to animate from the end color, and the destination is going to be the start color. This is what we want. Okay, when we click, if we are to the left, we are going to animate to the right. And if we are on the right, we are going to animate to the left. And this should be all for our component here. I know it might confuse you because I think this is the biggest component we have built ever in this course. So take a deep breath and look at it a couple of times. You're going to understand how it works. Now we want to go back to the main QML file and actually use this. We want to import Qt Quick Layout. We want to use 1.4. We want to give our window here an ID, so we're going to say root ID. We also want to set a property for the animation duration. Property, and it's going to be anim duration. Let's start by half a second, 500 milliseconds. Inside, we want to put a flickable component. It is going to fill the parent, and inside that we want to have a column layout. The ID is going to be M column ID, and we want to pass the height of this column as the content height of this flickable component, because that's the height of what it has to display. So we can say content height here. This is an important property for a flickable component. We are going to say M column ID implicit height. The width is going to be that of the parent. So we're going to say parent width, and we want a spacing of 2. This should do. Now we want to put in our moving rectangles. Okay, we define it like this, like we would for any other component. Okay, let's look at the properties that we can specify. We can specify background color. So we should say background color. The background color is going to be gray. We can specify the starting color. So we say start color. It's going to be beige. The end color is going to be blue. And anim duration is going to be an anim duration from this one, but we don't want to confuse the properties, so we should say animation duration here. That's better. This property is from this main QML file here. Okay, the other one is from the item here, which is called anim duration. That's what we are setting. I hope this makes sense. The easing text is going to be linear. This is what we want to see in the middle. Easing type is going to be easing linear. The remaining property is container width. We should specify that container width is going to be root ID width. Okay. By now we should be able to run the application and see how it looks. We are only going to have one component, but if this works correctly, it's going to be very easy to add others. Let's run the application. Our app is here. If you click, nothing happens, and they say final X is not defined. Why is that? Let's go back to our moving rect and look at final X. Why is it not recognized? Can I not define a property in here? Let's debug and see what is happening here. What if I put in a static value like 200? Let's come to the main QML file, change a few things, put in spaces, run again. Final X not defined. Let's put this property outside and see if this works. I'm going to put that here. And I'm going to say this final X is going to be small container width minus contained rect ID width. Now let's see if this works correctly. Let's come to main, put in a few spaces, run again. Now it's going to work. Okay. Why is it not working here when you define a property inside? This is a mystery to me. Okay, keep that in mind. If you find an answer to this mystery, you can ping me in the QA section to tell me. I'm going to research on this after this video. But the important thing is that we found a way around and it is working. And that's a good skill as a software developer to find ways around even if you haven't understood yet how it works. Because sometimes you need something that works due to time constraints. Okay, we have our thing working here. We are animating from left to right, and our easing type is linear. If you look to the curve we had here, linear is, let's look, easing curve for linear function, velocity is constant. We want to try all these easings, so we are going to come back to main QML file and simply copy what we have here, put in a second moving rectangle. The easing type we want to test is in quad. And we want the color to end green. Let's run. Okay, you see that it is different. It starts out slow and ends fast, and this goes only linear. I hope you can see this. So I am going to pause the video, put in all the other easings, and I'm going to come back to test what we have. I should also correct this text. It shouldn't say linear, it should say in quad. Okay, let's change the text. Okay, we have our moving rectangles and you see that there is quite a lot. And that's because there are quite a lot of easing types that you can use in here. Okay, I'm going to let you take some time and read on all these if you happen to need them. But what I wanted you to see is how they work and how you can set those if you happen to need them. You see that the width is in here being displayed linear. It's going to animate in quad, out quad. If we keep scrolling, we can see all the others. Okay, in bounce. This is interesting. Let's look at its curve. In bounce is in curve for a bounce exponentially. This is the curve. Okay, it follows this structure here. Okay, this is really all I had to say in this lecture. I hope you saw how easings can affect your animation. You see we have a same animation from a given location to another location, but just changing the easings can dramatically change how your animation happens. And you can play with these things to see what you like more. And I want you to notice that the color changes are also animated. Look at this color. It starts out beige and it fluidly changes to another color. Okay, this is another thing you should not do. Okay, this is all for now. In the next lecture, we're going to look at grouped animations. I'll see you there.